This is Decay of Logos. Whilst initially it may have had a lot of issues, they have actually fixed many of the things that may have been giving it a lot of negativity. So the control scheme is actually a lot more like you'd expect now. I have to say this off the bat. And a lot of the inventory loss via your creature has also been mitigated. So anyone that was having issues with that should note that that is now gone, because I noticed that I had put in items into my creature and loaded up a new session and then been deleted and things like that. And initially, that is a major problem. But obviously, these are now gone. So, this is a Soulsesque sort of action-adventure game where obviously it's intended to be a lot more difficult, and you're intended to have a challenge to go fight the enemies, and they're not meant to be easy. You can just run into swarms them, attack everything. You're meant to be smart about it, go and attack, and draw one enemy at a time. And I like it. It's got a few issues, though, which may put a lot of people off. And they're not the worst issues, but let's just say, for the first third of the game, you want to go explore, you want to find all the secrets, but the issues are your inventory storage. When it's not being deleted, which now it will not be anymore, you have a very limited storage space. So you've got what you can carry on yourself, which is one main item, one big item for weapons, and then you've got a spare storage slot which can be any weapon or any item of armour. And then your creature can only hold one of each type of weapon as well. So if you find multiples of weapons, and you will not get until 1/3 of the way through the game any ability to put items into the storage well, which it will say in the hint screen. Rumour has it that there's a place called a well that you can put infinite amounts of items down. You will not get that until you're 1/3 of the way through the game. And the same with repairing your weapons. That will not come for 1/3 of the game. And when I had weapons being deleted out of the armor pack, and the only one that I had left got worn out, and most of the time when you've got a weapon it will just vanish, but if you've got a unique weapon it will become so worn out that it will just literally do one hit of damage. But you can't get rid of it unless you drop it on the floor and throw it away. You can't just switch to using your fists, which will do more damage. And so I threw away one of the unique weapons just to be able to do any sort of damage at all, because of the issues that I had. Now, obviously now that they've sorted out the inventory loss, you shouldn't go into a situation where you're going to end up with no active weapon that you could possibly use. But I had that issue. Another one is with the creature as well. It may have been associated with the inventory loss. The creature might have reset its progress every single time that I've booted up, but it's meant to gain a bond with you and start helping out in combat and doing things like that. But I didn't notice this, and it only really changed towards the end of the run, and maybe it was a scripted change because of how I ran around the world, and I missed one boss, and then because I missed that boss and I'd done everything else after that boss to go back to it, that it just jumped the aging of my creature to be like worn out and haggard. I don't know, but I had been looking after it and feeding it every lullaberry that I could find for the most part, until it just started being a pest. And the creature will be a pest because there's one big puzzle where there's a circular area, the arcs, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's the one that's in the centre town, which is where you gain the ability to repair your weapons if you can find the shopkeeper's window, because you don't knock on their doors, you have to knock on their windows. They won't answer the doors, so it's a bit hidden how to get your weapons repaired. You have to actually talk to his window, and then he will only repair the finest of weapons, but he will actually seem to repair anything as long as he's got something unique in there. So maybe that's a bug, but I don't mind. It's good to be able to repair everything up and have some armor, because there's limited amounts of everything in the entire world. But as I was saying, where there's a specific puzzle where you have to leave your creature on a weighted platform and then you have to move and go and pull a lever, your creature will be the biggest pain and constantly move off of that platform. So they do say that they've fixed the creature's reaction in this area, and maybe it does follow a bit better, but it still constantly refuses to sit on that button. So that's a big progress prevention to going through that, in my opinion. But if you stick with it, if you stick through the first third of the game, then you can start doing all that. The other big detriment that a lot of people might not realise is that when you get hit, every single hit affects your stats a bit. It slowly decreases over time until you become worn out and you need to sleep. You might not find the resting points initially. They are not the most obvious, and the first time that I went past one, I could swear I had no prompt to be able to allow to sleep, so I had to restart my game to get all my stats back up and start fresh. But it was good to start fresh, and then from then with full stats I had a much better go, and then I found the resting points. But it's in a semicircular area, in any semicircular area like that you can just rest in. Sometimes you will be ambushed whilst you sleep, but it will allow you to get your stats back up to full, which will allow you to, be effective and not be so weak that you're going to struggle to do anything. So it's important to keep your stats high to be able to take on all of the different things. But yeah, it took me about 17 hours to complete the game. There are, I think, 4 main bosses, so there aren't that many, and there are essentially 4 areas as well. So it's quite a condensed Soulsesque game, but a lot of the secrets aren't necessarily worth going through because the chests are just randomly generated, and more often than not in the secret loot it's just going to be some generic weapon or piece of armor that's no better than what you already have. So that's my main issue. I want the secret stuff that you go out your way to go get the secrets to be a little more special, especially if you've gone to all these lengths to do it. There are a lot of things that I haven't done, like there were secrets and apparently a lot of narrative paths. I don't know whether they just didn't trigger, or whether because of the order that I did things, because I accidentally went out of order, because I missed one area, that maybe I just removed my ability to get a lot of narrative. But it's still a really good game, I still really enjoyed it, because obviously I played through the entire thing, and it remains a challenge towards the end, and even the final boss is a challenge. And I do think that there may be some sort of way to not only get the alternative ending to what I got, but also I think there's like a third secret ending. If you could somehow, okay, this is going to be a spoiler, but if you can defeat the king, because I feel like maybe if you could work out parries, maybe you can do that, or maybe you can just defeat him before he crushes your head, and then, spoilers, other things happen. Yeah, I think that could be a possibility, but there is a downside towards the way that they've done the end, because if you are me, and you think, even in games, it's not just movies, even in games there are after credit scenes, and I sat through the entire credits waiting to see if there was an after credit scene, and during the end credits it gives you the option: do you want to start New Game Plus, or do you want to go back to the Hamlets, which is the first area where you find the repairs and the things to store in the well. But if you sit through the entire end credits, you don't get the option to go to New Game Plus anymore. You'll automatically return to the Hamlet of Fonz, where everyone is now left, apart from the repairman. But, all of the main characters are left, and, it's like you can't actually go back to fight the boss again to get the other ending, even if you wanted to, and you're cemented into whatever happens at the end of your game, and it's just a sad time. You're left in a sad world at the end with a big loss of everything that you could do. So I don't know why that would be an option, and you wouldn't get the option to then go, I want to go to New Game Plus, because I would have liked to have gone to New Game Plus and played that, but I got stolen from the opportunity because I sat through the credits. So that's a big detriment to me. But, I like it. There's a lot of gameplay. They do have a good way of making you think, well, this is just the end of the area, and then you find some way of finding a new area. Sure, it's not the world's biggest area, but then they add more, so you think, oh, well, this is where it ends, and then it's like, no, there's more, and then well, this is where it ends, no, there's more, and this is where it ends, and then, oh, there's more. And they did a pretty good job of that, but some of the areas do loop round in strange ways, so you might also think, oh, I found someone new, and then it's like, oh, it just looped back round to this, did it? Okay, then. But yeah, I still had a lot of fun with it. The bosses are pretty unique, so they're all challenging. There is apparently a way to find 3 types of magicka, but I only ever found Trudeau, and I've been pretty thorough in exploring the whole of the game. I found some secret mini sort of bosses, but I never found the additional magic, so I feel like there's a lot of secrets left to be discovered in the world that I've somehow missed, even though I thoroughly explored everything. So, it's definitely a good game, definitely a lot of fun, and definitely worth the money, as long as you persist through that first third of the game. That's the biggest hamperment. Once you're past that and you can start repairing your weapons and your armour, and you're on a much better position from then onwards, just as long as you persist through that first third of the game. As long as you learn that there is a rest spot that you can go rest at, and then maybe stop looting for chests once you've got full of everything, because otherwise you're just going to be left in a position where you're leaving weapons and they get deleted because you have no storage space for them and you've opened the chest already. So it's better to come back later when you've got the ability to access the wealth to place them in. But other than that, it's a good Soulsesque game. Like I said, you get a fair bit of gameplay out of it. There's a few bosses, and they are, as long as you go to them at the right time, interesting and challenging. If you go way too late, then one of them is like way easier than he should be. But other than that, I did like it, so I definitely recommend it.